This is a love story, and it's a love story that begins in middle school. I know. There was a girl in middle school. I was also in middle school, and she was incredibly beautiful. She wore Keds, and she had an OP shirt, and she had a little yellow uh, little tie that she put in her hair all the time, and she just floated through the hallways. She was like an angel. And I had felt feelings of excitement for girls before, but this was next level. And I knew that I needed to acquire this woman and bring her into my life in some way. So I went about it in the way that I had learned how from my mom, and we watched Pretty Woman together all the time. And in the final scene of Pretty Woman, Richard Gere's in the back of a limousine, and he comes to kind of rescue her, and he has this umbrella and he has flowers. So I thought if I brought her a flower, that would get this whole thing going. But I didn't have a limousine; I had a bike, and I first of all made it clear that I liked her through a friend of a friend of a friend. So she knew what was coming. And I went to the florist on my bike, which is about 3 miles from her house. And I think about this now, it's ridiculous because my son is in seventh grade. He would never do this. But I did because I needed this woman in my life. And so I rode my bike, it was a hybrid, to the florist, and I got a red rose in the baby's breath, and it was in the little plastic. And I rode it to her house, and I put it on her porch. And then the next day I saw her at school, and I was like, you see the rose, which at that point was just kind of like a stick with thorns, because if you've ridden a bike 3 miles with a rose in baby's breath, it flaps all over the place. And so she was unimpressed, and I said, will you go out with me? And she said, no. It's okay. It wasn't me. It was my approach. That's what I thought. I figured who would go out with someone who gave them a stick with thorns as a gift? I need to get her a real rose that's not all blown apart. And so I went about making money, which is what I did. And the way I did that then was collecting dog shit. I got paid by the pound. And so I collected enough pounds of dog shit to, this is in my backyard, by the way. I didn't just do it around town. And I made enough money to actually have the florist deliver the rose. They delivered the rose in good shape, and I called the florist. The work had been done. And then I talked to Lindsay the next day, and I said, what do you think? And she said, no. So fast forward to junior high. She had gone off to an all-girls school for a bit, and then went to my junior high, and her angelic nature had increased and enhanced over the years. And I was so in love with this woman. And my Accutane had started to work. And so I approached her again, and this time with another rose, like a little joke. And she said yes, she would go out with me. Thank you. It was ninth grade, and I hadn't had a kiss, like a real kiss. And I wanted it to be with Lindsay, and I knew just the thing to do, which was take her to the movies, because it's dark, we could sit in the back. And I knew just the movie. In 1994, it was Legends of the Fall. Sexy as hell. Also rated R, couldn't see it. So settled on, let's see, I think it was Pet Detective. No, Ace Ventura. Yes, Ace Ventura, Pet Detective. And right when Jim Carrey reaches back and uses his ass to say, may I ask you a question, I went in for the kiss. And slowly, and she was responding. Her head came my way too. And slowly, this angel in the theater found my clear face. And we kissed, and it was incredible. And I'm not sure if it was my anxiety or the milk I drank on the way. But there was, after I pulled my mouth away and she pulled her mouth away, a slippery slope of spit between our mouths, connecting us still. We didn't want to do like the Lady and the Tramp thing, though, and just... So she, such a pro, reaches up and slaps the spit down. It was incredible. It was something I still think about. And then after, we stood outside the theater and I held her from behind like this. After I called my mom, I knew I had 7 minutes once my mom got the call till she would come pick us up. And just a little rock. That's what you do, just like this. And she smelled like Pantene, I think it was. And then high schoolers drove by and they said, "Just never gonna..." That's what it sounded like. This. Thank you. They turned the music down. That was great. And they said, it's never gonna work, it's never gonna work, it's never gonna work, they screamed. And I held her and I said, we'll see. Fast forward many years, I took a white rose to the wedding. Outdoor wedding. No roses other than the one I brought. Exactly. Lindsay loved the gesture. Her wife did not. But I like to think of myself as someone that a woman can learn clearly and safely what she's not into. Thank you.